Hello, my friends. I said I was going to stop doing intros at the beginning of the video and just pop my name up on screen, but I've realized that I keep forgetting to pop my name up on screen, at least with the last one, maybe even two videos that I did. So I'm thinking it might just be easier to say something along the lines of, "Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to the Enchanted Skein." It is now 3 weeks until my first market, and I must say this past week, I have felt so incredibly grateful and blessed to be a part of this crochet community. First of all, my testing for my pattern Frankenstein has completed, and I had some really amazing testers. So thank you, Heather, Jay, Diana, and Alyssa for testing my pattern. It means the world to me. Your feedback was incredible. I had like the perfect mix of people when it came to testing, in my opinion, because I had some folks who had never done a snuggler pattern before. So their insight was really great coming from a place of not having done one. And then someone like Alyssa, who to me is like the OG queen of snugglers because she makes so many of them, getting her detailed opinion was really, really awesome as well. And then I actually have someone who has offered to review the pattern from a technical writer standpoint. So that is incredible as well. Thank you, Coley, for that. So yeah, just super excited to have that wrapped up. That pattern is out, by the way, by the time this video goes live. So if you want to check it out, you're more than welcome to. In addition to that, some of those folks shouted me out on their channel and showed him off, which was super, super incredible. And I was grateful for that. And I also got a shout out from Tracy at Travel Crochet. And that was another fangirl moment for me. I had mine with Alyssa from Awestruck Crochet testing my pattern, and then another fangirl moment when Tracy shouted out my channel on her channel. And I ended up getting a bunch of subscribers for that. So thank you so much for that, Tracy. And then in addition to that, if it could not get better, she also invited me to collaborate with her and 8 other creators on the Crochet Roulette Crochet Along challenge that we're doing. That is well underway by the time you watch this video. I record these a couple weeks in advance, but those videos come out kind of same time. So I will leave a link to that playlist in the description as well. If you have not seen it, go check it out. It is a ton of fun. We spin a wheel to get a random theme for the week and a random colorway, and that's what we're making. And we're inviting all of you to join along in that. So if you haven't already, please do go check that out. But yeah, I'm just feeling so incredibly grateful for this community and everyone in it. So with that being said, let's get into this week's video. In my last few videos, I have been doing kind of a structure where we're talking market talk, some topic that I need help with or want to share about my upcoming market, and then we go into this week's makes. But we're going to flip the script. We're going to shake things up this week, and we're going to do my makes first, because after that, I am going to do that pricing exercise that I mentioned in last week's video. I have everything kind of set up for that. So what I ended up doing was pulling one of each plushie and setting it aside. And then I have created a pivot table in Excel of my inventory and just created a little quick price sheet. And this is all the items that I have listed for $5 in my mind, or at least in my list so far. And I've got the names of those items and then some blank lines, because what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to place those sheets out on the table along with all the items that are on that list. And I already can tell you, I see some issues. I see some things that don't quite align. The pricing is not, is cohesive the word I'm looking for? No. It's not scaled correctly. So there are certain things that are priced too low and maybe some things that are priced too high. And I noticed that just by looking at my list. So I'm going to set them out where I have them today. And then my thought is what I'm going to do is take a look. I'll show you everything. And then what we'll do is we'll say, okay, you know what? That doesn't belong in the $5 bucket. That belongs in the $8 bucket. Scratch it off the 5, write it on the 8. And then that way I can take those papers, go back to the computer and make all of my updates. So yeah, we will be doing that after I share this week's makes, because I want to include those. I have not priced them yet, so I want to place them where they're going to go so that I can get all of that entered at once, because my plan is probably next weekend I am going to get everything loaded into my Square inventory, so I want to have all the pricing worked out by then. All right, let's get into this week's makes. I mentioned last week that I was short on Halloween items, so I had my little kind of list of things I wanted to make to fill that gap. And one of the first things on that list were some Halloween poppers by Cable and Canvas. The first one I made is called the Spider Pop, and These are super cute. I don't know why in my mind I thought they were going to come out smaller like the mushroom pops, but they came out a pretty good size. These were made using Naughty Pony yarn all the way through and a 5.5mm hook. So I made 2 of these guys. Super cute. They are time consuming, I will say. Essentially, you make the spider into the, pumpkin, but you've got to surface crochet all of his little legs on. You've got the embroidery on the pumpkin and making the little slices. They're not called slices, but you get what I'm saying. So that was the first one that I made. And then I moved on to the next pattern in the pack that I purchased. It was a 3-pack called the Ghoulie Pop. And that's this one here. Again, super cute. Made 2 of those as well. And same kind of thing, you've got to surface crochet the little frills, you've got the detail on the pumpkin. So they definitely did take some time. And I don't know why in my mind, when I wrote them down, I was like, those are going to be $5. And now that I'm looking at all of my things, like, those are not $5. So they took a good bit of time. They are definitely not $5. But, and then the third pattern in that pack was a bat popper. I did not make any of those. I have the little chonky bats that I have in my minis. And it was just, I was popped out by the time I was done with those 4. But I knew I did want to make some separate ghosts. By the way, these patterns all come with instructions if you don't want to make them popping and you just want to make them separate for how to do that. So you can have the separate ghost, separate spider, separate bat, and separate pumpkin in each of those patterns. But I did want to make some separate ghosts. So I ended up making 3 of these guys, a little bit larger in size. I want to say they're free-handed in the sense that I didn't count rows or stitches, but I had just made the Ghoulie Pops. So aside from the fact that these have some bobbles for arms, it's probably the same pattern, or you could use this pattern if you wanted to, but there's a bajillion and a half free ghost patterns out there. So those were done. And then I also wanted to make some mini pumpkins, smaller than those that are on there. So these are just completely free-handed. Again, not counting anything and whatnot. I was done with this kind of stuff when I finished these 2. I had on my list to make 5, but I'm going to maybe make 1 or 2 here and there to toss in the bin. But other than that, this week it was just these 2. And then I was watching Heather from Heather's Zenful Crochet. And I watch her on the daily because she's doing her 100 days to Halloween. And I had to make a Mothman because she pulled up the cutest little Mothman pattern. I ended up using my Sitting Bee pattern by Fammy Crochets. It's a free pattern on Instagram, and just working with different colors and color change times, but ended up creating 3 of these guys. And I ended up doing the wings just like the pattern calls for, but at the end of my round, I just added, like, I think a couple chains and a double crochet or something. I don't remember what it was, but just to kind of give them a little bit different of a shape, a little tip to them. So these guys came out super cute. I've got 3 of those. Which I'm super happy with. Used my red eyes for those as well. And then the last thing that I had on my list was rats. I showed you that one kind of chunky large rat that I got from QB Crochet. When I purchased that pattern, it was a bundle as well, and I got her baby rat pattern. And since I was looking to make some smaller things that are a little bit less expensive, I ended up making 5 baby rats. So I've got these guys here. This pattern works up super quick, and I love the detail of the larger rat, but the speed, he's poop and fluff. The speed of these guys makes me want to make a gajillion of them. The tail is a chain instead of crocheting in a small round, and all that good stuff. So yeah, these guys came out super cute. Love them. So made 5 of them. And these, like I said, they cranked, they went. So but that is everything that I made this week. I'm very happy with it. I filled in a good chunk of the gap that I had of missing items that were Halloween specific. Now, I will say these are going to always be in my inventory because I love rats and it's part of kind of what I already had envisioned. So these are staple items, but I do think also people could lean towards those as Halloween items. So I'm calling it there. All right. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to go on out to my living room and we're going to take a look at this inventory. I don't know how long or short this is going to be. I I was going to say I want to take you into my mind, but I don't want to take you into my mind because I want you to stick around. But I do want to walk you through my thought process and, you know, talk you through what I'm thinking. But there may be some parts that I'll speed up because if I'm just in a quiet lull and the crickets are playing because I'm trying to figure out what the heck to do with myself because I can see that happening, you know, we'll speed through that. So we'll see how that goes. But let's go ahead into the living room and see what we can figure out for this pricing. Okay, so I have everything laid out according to the pricing that I put in kind of when I was adding it to my inventory. Just a quick note as far as how I came up with these prices at the time. I have a formula in my Notion where I just put in kind of what I'm be happy with taking home after all fees and everything. And then it calculates a number for me. So there was no rhyme or reason in comparison to each other, which is what we're going to do now. So let me take you around to each of the price points and show you where I'm starting from. All right, so here is my $5 price range. I've got all my minis listed as $5. I was originally thinking like a 2 for $10 and $6 each, but I'll figure that part out. But I do think that, you know, $5 is a fair price for these guys. Some have more work than others, so it'll balance. The one that I don't think makes sense is this B. So my thought is what I might do with these guys is take them out of the mini bin and then give them to customers as a little, like, you know, thank you if they buy X many dollars or whatever it might be. Right off the bat, I see some things that shouldn't be in this category, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. My next category was $6, and in here I just had a mushy pop because I knew it was more than a $5 item because of the work involved, but that's all I had, you know, at that point. My $7 items are kind of oddballs. So these are all things that I made one of. I didn't like the size of these guys, so I made them in the larger yarn, and I like that size much better in the blanket yarn. These I didn't like either enjoy doing it or whatever it was. So these are just one-offs. I may consider like not even bringing them to this particular market and bring them as like a, I don't know, discounted bin or something at another time. But so that's what I've got for $7 at least at the moment. Same thing almost holds true for this category. So this guy I'm not going to be making any more of. He's adorable, but he's a lot of work for the size. The skulls I didn't love. These I will definitely be making a lot of. I just talked about these a minute ago. These are the baby rats, and I think that's probably a fair price point for the baby rat. Next up are $10 items. So I've got my medium-sized rats, the caterpillars, the chickens. I'm going to have the Mabel chickens and the Stardew Valley shaped chickens. That's something I don't probably intend on making a lot more of, so I don't mind pricing them to move. I've got my birds, toads, axolotls. These guys may be a little under, but they're right now in the $10 bin. Moving into 12, we've got the wisps, the larger rat. I've got a single snake that I made, our zombies, and our spider. For $15 items, I got the sitting kitty, the voodoo doll. I've got these two cats, which is a smaller loaf cat and the chonky cat. I'm not sure they make sense there. The devil bear, Frogdrick, the plague doctor, and mulberry. I definitely think some shuffling needs to happen with these guys as far as price points, but we'll get to that. And then this is my $18 items. I've got the FNAF characters, the hatching dragon, which is a good amount of work, large loaf cat, the zombie kitty, the Cappy ghost. This guy you guys have never seen. He's one of my earlier makes. This yarn is horrible. He's a little large, but this is like the least cuddly yarn I can imagine. So I don't anticipate charging too much for him. He's cute. He's just not snuggly. Next up in the $20 section, I have this lonely little bat buddy. Again, this is one of each item, so there are more of these. These are just one of each for a pricing perspective. In the 22 group, I've got Darth, the smaller possum snuggler, the baby dragons. For 30, I've got the bulk of the snugglers that are all the same size, so Frankenstein, the dragons, and the large possum, and then I've got the mushroom doll. In 36, I've got the little sprite guys, and then I've got my little Will dragon because he is a lot of work. And then right now for 49, I've got the zombie dragon, and then for 75, I had on the large willow dragon, which is kind of my largest item. All right, so right off the bat, I definitely see stuff that needs to move around. So I'm going to take a few minutes shuffle some things, rewrite some things, take a step back, take a look and see what I think. And then I will give you another walkthrough of where I land. And then you can leave in the comments if you think that I'm way off. So I will have enough time to fix it before the market. So definitely let me know your opinion. All right, so I think I'm at a place I'm pretty happy with. Maybe some tweaking later, but this is what we're going with for now. Let me take you around and show you the different price points. All right, so for my $5 items, I've got the minis, and I think I decided I'm just gonna probably do them flat $5. The fidget worms and the stress balls could be more, but I'm uncomfortable with them, so I'm just gonna get them out the door. I combined the $6 and $7 price points, so these are all going to be $7. These are going to have the googly-eyed monsters. I moved those from $5 because those are quite a bit more than the minis. The one-offs that I don't plan on making again, Mushy Pops and some pumpkins. The $8 kind of misfit bin because these guys won't be around for long. That's seasonal. And then my rats. The $10 group still has the same guys in it that it had. I added the Mothman and the zombies, so these moved price points. The $12 items, pretty much the same thing. I did move these guys in from the $10, and I brought in the Chonky Cat from the $15 category and put him in the 12. He just doesn't kind of fit into the 15 in my opinion, but we'll see how well he sells. If he goes too quick, you know, then I'll know. All right, for the $15 items, I've got the chickens. I did move those up. I know people sell them for even more, and I don't want to undercut people, so I just wanted to make sure I moved them there. The voodoo dolls, the loaf cats, and then the spider. That's the smaller of the two loaf cats. Then in the $18 realm, I moved a lot of stuff over here. So I brought Frogdrick, the Sitting Kitty, Mulberry, the Devil Bear. They were in the 15. I brought them over to the 18. Still have the Cappy and the Hatching Dragon, the larger Loaf Cat, and my one-off, I'm going to call him Scratchy. I did move the Plague Doctor up to the $20 category along with the Five Nights at Freddy's guys. They were a lot of work and I definitely think they're worth it. $22 category didn't change too much. I pulled Darth out. I'll show you him in just a second. And I added the Zombie Kitty from the $18 to the $22 point. He was a lot of work. If he doesn't move like the first day, I might scoot him into the $20 realm just to kind of get him gone because he's a one-off as well. All right, and Darth is now over here in our $30 category. He is weighted, a lot of work. And yeah, so I'll have all of the snugglers, the larger snugglers, and Darth. And then I am going to make this 35 instead of 36 just to make it easier to like make change and stuff. And I've got the same two that were here already, and I moved the Mushroom Boy from the $30 category into the 35. He's got the, you know, popping mushroom hat and a lot more work there as well. And then I am definitely going to increase the price on the Zombie Dragon. He was a ton of work and very specialty, so he is going up to the $60 price point. And then I'm going to be bumping the Willow Dragon up to at least 80. This is one that I might give more thought to. I know I've seen people sell them for more, like closer to 100. So I need to give that some thought, but I'll stew on that and figure things out. All right. Thank you for coming along with me on that little journey. That was very eye-opening. I'm really, really glad I did that exercise because I think visuals help me so much more in being able to kind of get the gist of what I'm doing. I'm sure that there were some of you that were screaming at the screen that I was either under or overpricing something, and I can totally appreciate that. I'm feeling pretty comfortable with where we're at, but if you see anything that stands out, please do leave it in the comments down below. Even though I post these videos a little bit in the rear, I will have enough time to read those comments when this comes out and make pivots and adjustments if I need to, and I really do value your opinions. But I feel like it's something I'm comfortable with in the sense that, you know, I think it's fair enough that I'm not undercutting anyone if there are other crocheters involved, but at the same time, I'm getting a good value for the time and the energy that I put into it. I definitely think there's something to be said for the things that you really enjoy crocheting versus the things that, you know, are my one-off items. If I'm never going to make them again, I don't have an issue with charging a little bit less sometimes and things like that, just because it's like, you know, it's one and done. But again, if you see anything that stands out, please do let me know. I appreciate the insight. So I'm feeling pretty good about it now. I'm glad for that. This is at least at this point what I'm going to be putting into my inventory next week. Next week, my plan is to kind of show you guys how I'm going to be doing my tagging and all that good stuff. And maybe what we'll do is a little story time when it comes to Vistaprint, because by the end of this coming week, I should have my last printed item from Vistaprint that I'm waiting for, which is a replacement due to some issues. So there's some tea I can spill there, and we'll have a little bit of a story time because I did have several challenges with some items that I ordered from Vistaprint. But yeah, we'll talk about that in next week's video. And as far as what I'm going to be making going into next week, I'm still going to be filling in some of those Halloween items. And now that we've restructured pricing, I want to take a look at how many I have where. I didn't account for that when we were out there. So I definitely want to do that. And then that'll identify some gaps for me, and I will work on crocheting some items that fill in those gaps. But as always, I appreciate you coming along with me on this journey. Welcome to everybody who's new. We have some new subscribers, which I'm super, super grateful for. If you haven't already subscribed, please do that. I appreciate it. And definitely check out that crochet roulette challenge. It is so much fun. We have so many people in the community. This community is amazing and outstanding, and I couldn't be more grateful for it and couldn't be more grateful for you watching. As always, thank you so, so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.